Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cowboys Takeover. I'm your host, Jason Kent. With me, as always, Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how you doing on this fine Wednesday night? It's weird. It's a Wednesday night. We got the Thursday night game going tomorrow night. That's the Cowboys at Giants up in the Meadowlands. So how you feeling midweek? How's midweek treating you?
Hey, Wise Counsel. Nice to be on with you here another week. Wednesday is off to a pretty good start, but you know what? I was thinking today while on the road and commuting. Um, I think these Thursday night games should maybe only go through week 7 or 8 because as these guys' bodies get a beating throughout the season, the turnaround I think is a little bit too quick.
Wait, I'm not in disagreement with you. I do, man. Football, and I don't. I think it happened somewhere in our 20s where football really like took off. I was
Mhm.
fine with Sunday football. You got your Monday night game, and then you had the occasional game on Thursday for Thanksgiving. But now that they have the Thursday night every week, opening week you had a Friday game this year. At some point, we're going to Saturday games. It's a lot. It's too much. I'm gonna agree with you. Sometimes it is football overload. Um, the public, the world, it's the number one sport in America for a reason. The world can't get enough of it. Um, but like we said, we came into the show. We've had a little bit of time to really look past these last 2 weeks as the Cowboys. Um, I think you're looking up at this week 4 matchup playing again in East Rutherford against the Giants. With how bad you looked the last 2 weeks, do you feel confident coming into this Thursday night matchup? As you said before, right before we came on, you checked it out. We saw the Cowboys are a 5.5 point favorite, which the Giants coming off of their first victory of the year, um, and the Cowboys coming off their consecutive. Yes, it was a close game, but the really second consecutive blowout loss. How confident are we coming in this week?
I'm not very confident,
Oh,
unfortunately. I hate to say. Um, I went back and I looked at the Giants game against the Browns and week 2 against the Commanders. And that Commanders game, for those that don't know, Commanders made 7 field goals and beat them 21-18. The Giants had 3 touchdowns and went for 2. I think on 2 of the 3 of them, they've had some kicker issues, but they could be a 2-1 team right now. And they lost to the Vikings opening day, and you're like, here we go again. But all of a sudden, the Vikings also beat the 49ers. So their Vikings are a formidable team this year, and now you have the G-Men, and I think it's even though Dak I think is undefeated against the G-Men. I think we won 12 of our last 13. Um, if you just completely wipe out those numbers and those figures, um, I think that brings this game potentially too close for comfort. I don't know. That's just my first sense right now.
I'm not in disagreement with you because I really do believe after the last 2 weeks, I think it's tough to really feel confident. When
Hmm.
when you look at Vegas at 5.5 point, yeah, it's a pretty big margin for how the Cowboys have looked. Um, so I feel pretty confident. Like you said, Dak really has their number. If you look at talent wise, Dallas is the more talented team. They should, on paper, they should win. Now you never know. I know there's rain projected, I think, in the forecast for tomorrow, so I don't know how that if that comes into play with the game. Um, but like we like to do, we like to look at the who we're playing first. If you're looking at just from the Giants side, if you had to say the keys to victory for this Giants team, what do you think they should really look for to attack this Cowboys team?
Yeah, so the strength I think on both sides of the football for the Giants is their front seven on the defensive side of things. They got a really good big boy as you like to call him, Dexter Lawrence in that middle.
Yeah,
It's going to be a real test for our center and Smith on the left guard side. He's going to be a problem, I think. And their big acquisition was Brian Burns on the edge.
yeah,
Uh, Terrence Steele is going to be challenged all night. They still got Okereke, and their undrafted rookie from SMU, Elijah Chapman, looked pretty good last week. They were at six. They had either 6 or 6+ sacks against the Browns, and 2 turnovers, and I think that's going to be their recipe for success. If they can get to Dak and cause a turnover or force an interception, uh, I think that's what they're going to have to do to stay competitive in the game and give themselves the best chance to win.
I agree. And when you look at Dallas, I think when we've watched them the last couple of weeks, you sent a stat. They're not really, running the ball real well. And like you said, Dexter Lawrence, 6'4", 340. He clogs up the gaps, and you really see Dallas hasn't found a real, they're not, they don't have the holes that you've seen in the past. And I do attribute that a little bit as bad, as much as Biotish may not have been, what you thought he may have been when you drafted him, and he definitely wasn't that Frederick type of center. He was still a very good player. And then I think losing Tyron Smith, regardless of his injuries and over the last years, when he's on that field, he does make a difference. He is a big, premier left tackle. So I think we've hurt a little bit there, losing those guys in the run game. So I agree with you. And when you look at the Giants, I think that does start up front. They should be looking to kind of shut down that run. And then they have 16 sacks, or 16 or 14. They're second in the league in sacks this season. They have a bunch of different guys with sacks too. It's not just like one dude with a lot. They have 2 players with 3 sacks. Dexter Lawrence is one of those guys, and a safety. Pinnock with a sack. Okereke, Okereke. I always hear Pat say it. But, and Micah McFadden, both with a sack and a half. Burns has a sack. So you're going through their list. Kayvon Thibodeau, he hasn't really shown that, but he was a very high draft pick. So I think if I'm the Giants, if I can shut down the run, I'm encouraged what I've seen against, the passing. Dallas's passing doesn't seem to really be in sync. It really seems to take Dak a while to get going. He didn't really get going that first game. He got going late in the New Orleans game, and he got going late in against Baltimore. So if you're really shutting down that run and force Dallas to be one-dimensional, now you can really start doing what you want. And they've shown they can get after the quarterback. And Dak has had time back there, but as we've seen, his receivers, they're not getting open. We can't really get separation out there. And on the big shot plays, he's not really hitting them. They're not, whether it's the deep ball and because we don't have a big receiver, he just can't. He's not letting his guys go make a play. So I do believe that first key to victory is really getting after Dak. After what you've seen, they have to feel confident they can.
Yeah, they can get to the quarterback with their front 4, so they're going to drop everyone else in coverage. And Dak, when he's rushed, especially I think against a zone scheme, he can be quite vulnerable and make some mistakes, especially if he's dropping back maybe over 35 times. He probably makes a mistake this game. And on the offensive side for the Giants, Malik Neighbors has looked really good. And I'm nervous that this is going to be the first game where we see Diggs bite on a double move.
You could. He's very much been impressive the last 2 weeks. And when I look at them offensively, I think they're not a team. When you look at just their style, that they've thrown 104 passes, or I'm sorry, 105 attempts. They have 75 rushes, so they're definitely a team that's passing more. But I do think early on, they need to try to establish that run game, because no, they're not going to be Tennessee. They're not even going to be New Orleans, because he's Kamara. Singletary is not Kamara. but he is a very good player. So the worry, if I'm the Giants on offensively, I do think the key to victory early on is trying to establish that run game. They haven't never, we have a lot of Giant friends. You always hear all the time about their offensive line woes. So and Daniel Jones, we've seen him take a lot of hits throughout his career. So if you're the Giants, you want to establish what you've seen, you want to establish that run game, then if once you get that going, that's where, I think Neighbors, he's a big player. You've seen him, he's very good. And he's still a rookie, so he's hit and miss. But they have some guys. Slayton's not terrible. Singletary's been a guy that's very good throughout his career. And the other guy you do have to worry about, the wild card really is Daniel Jones. While he's not a premier quarterback, he may not even be a very good quarterback. He's shown he can. I feel bad. That was such a good dig at Daniel Jones. He can make big plays with his legs, and we saw last week Dallas. If they're not trying to contain Lamar Jackson, I know they're not going to worry about Daniel Jones. But he has shown the ability to run the ball. So I do think if they can establish that run game early, Dallas is trying to get pushed around. It's going to open up the big plays, either Daniel Jones running or some good play action. So if I'm the Giants, I do feel pretty confident. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I think with the Giants, you're worried about Parsons, but Daniel Jones, he is a very athletic, and we're going to go through some over unders later, but I'm tempted to bring this one out now. Daniel Jones for plus or minus 40 yards.
Oh, that's a good. I'm gonna go over. I think he breaks one. I do.
Okay, and that that could be a problem for us.
That's where I agree. I'm a little worried if they establish a run game with Singletary early. Jones could get going.
Yeah, and I think that between the Saints and the Ravens, between both of those games, I think they have shown some vulnerabilities in our defense, because they were a little bit different, even though and you got the run game, but Derek Carr is a pocket passer, and I think he only had 2 incompletions. So that's really, that really makes me nervous. Going into this game. Yeah.
Well, and when you look at it, looking at the Dallas side, the keys to victory, I think it has to start with your defense. This is a defense that we thought was going to be a top 10, probably closer to top 5 defense. I believe they're 31st in the NFL right now. And after they got going, I know we were all excited. Coming out of Cleveland, yes, we all met. Yes, they were missing both their tackles, but we felt pretty good. They came out of that game looking like the defense we thought they were last year, that they're going to continue to be. But since that 6-sack game, they have 1 sack. So it's, yes, Baltimore ran a lot, but they still, when they weren't rushing, I know I did say it's tough to get a pass rush, but you do expect it. And they didn't get a great pass rush against Carr. Carr ate him alive. So to me, it has to start. Micah and Tank have to really start taking ownership of that defense and start making a stand. Those guys need to do it. Tank has been around for a long time. He's, I believe this is last season, free agent after the season, so he could leave. So he doesn't want to just, when he wants to give it everything. And Mike is, you've gotten better every year in sacks. You're supposed to be the leader of this defense, and you really, last week, you look like a guy that was getting pushed around and defeated. You maybe made a play, but it wasn't. That's not what we've come to expect, and I'm sure that's not what he expects, and I'm sure he expects better of himself. So I know, whether he hears this or not, or hears any, he expects better of himself. So I think it has to start with Dallas. You have to get after that quarterback this week. You need to put Daniel Jones on his back multiple times this week.
Yeah, for me, the defense and what I would like to see is at least 6 punts. That's what we um, put the Browns through. I think that's a good number. Uh, we've been giving up a lot of ground on first and second down. I want to see a lot of improvement there. I just want to see something that we can build on because the games don't get easier the next 4, 5, 6 weeks. Uh, this is probably going to be one of the easier teams that we come across right over the next maybe month and a half. So I want to see our defense come up with some stops. Um, on the offensive side, I want to see a lot of more on the other end, third and shorts, because we've had nothing but third and long. And Dak needs to start looking like that runner-up MVP.
Yeah, I'm in 1,000% agreement with you. To me, on the offensive side, I need to see more out of CeeDee Lamb. It's nice to see him coming out and taking a little bit of ownership for his mistakes this last week. It definitely wasn't all on him, but there's some pretty in football in a 3-point game, regardless of how you got there, a play or two changes the game, and some of those drops and that fumble were very big. And Raphael Ramon, thank you for checking in. The Giants I think it's a must win for both of these teams, honestly. When you look at it, you can't, if you're the Cowboys, you were a team looking to be, in the NFC Championship game. You had Super Bowl expectations. And if you're so you can't, if you go down 1-3 and you lose to Giants on Thursday Night Football, there's going to be some heads. You can't. That's unacceptable. It can't happen. It just can't. Really, if you look at it, if you're the Giants, you got to see what Daniel Jones is. I don't know how they really feel about him. I haven't paid attention. I don't know if it's a must win. The Giants, definitely weren't talked about. If the Giants win, it's definitely a big deal for them. I think it is a bigger deal for the Cowboys and how they win. But when I look at it, it has to start with Dak and it has to start with CD. You have to get that connection going. You have to get some easy completions. I want to stop the gimmicky stuff. I'm tired of seeing CeeDee Lamb in the backfield. If you're going to do the gimmicky stuff, do it with Turpin. I don't want to see CD running out of the backfield. That's San Fran did that with Debo a lot, and then Debo started getting hurt. I don't want anything extra. Those big linemen's taking extra shots at him. I just want to see a basic offense. I want to see some pitching and catching and handing the ball off. I need to see bigger gaps again this week too. I need the run game. Eventually, they have to set it up. We're a team right now. They're just not good running the ball, and it's when Dallas has looked good in years past. They've been running the ball very well. They are third to last in the league in rushing at 73 yards. The only teams worse are the Chicago Bears and the Las Vegas Raiders. So, and when you look at it, more than half of the teams have over 100 rushing yards a game. So that shows you where Dallas has really shifted everything. And what I really thought earlier in the season or before preseason, I thought Dak was going to have a much better start. So, I think it's a big game for both teams. Both teams have to show up this week, but it should be a Cowboys victory.
So if the Cowboys lose, what percentage chance do you say McCarthy's gone before the season's over?
100. You can't listen. If you lose to the Giants week 4, Thursday Night Football, he shouldn't be on the plane back to Dallas. I've been very strong against getting rid of him 2 years ago, and very much so last year. If you lose this week, to me, he doesn't come. He can't be the coach. Something has to change, because you let go. I don't know how big of a deal Quinn was, but it looked. His defense didn't look this bad last year, and we didn't lose many pieces. Maybe a defensive tackle, but. At some point, you got to hold McCarthy accountable. Massive losses in the playoffs, year after year. Last year was a disgrace. You had the best, like a historical offense, and you get dominated through. I don't care what Dak finished with. Through the first 3 quarters, you get absolutely dominated. So no, 100%, he shouldn't be the coach if they lose. But there's no way you can finish. And at some point, you have to start rethinking as well. Like Dak does not look great.
Yeah.
Got his money and just I don't know.
Yeah. He's not himself. And we had exchanged text messages. We think we're going to give the O-line some grace and let them jive and let them come up with some chemistry this year. I'm not sure if you got a chance to look at a stat that was shared on X that Cowboys have one of the top 5 pass blocking rates without allowing a pressure. So, that's a positive, and we've been dropping back quite a bit.
It's very recognizable that as well. I was seeing, like, when you're watching Dak, most of his pressures are really when it's breaking down because you're too long. So it's very noticeable that he's getting time in the pocket, and we just can't get separation.
Yeah. So, I expect for Dak to be efficient. And I agree with you that we do need, even though it's going to be a difficult front four to run against, we do need to show some improvement there. But yeah, man, I mean, if this is if we don't start out fast and this is a 1 possession game by halftime, I think
you won't be worried.
I'll be worried.
All right. Well, since you went there, prediction time. What's your outcome? What is your final score to this game?
So, for me, I have the Cowboys winning 30-23.
That's a much closer game than I have it. But I have the Cowboys 34, and I have the Giants 17. But I do think it's pretty much a blowout the entire. I think Dallas is in control of the entire game. I listen. If I get this one wrong, I've gotten like so many text messages this last week, making fun of me, laughing at me, especially calling the preview show to the Saints game a clown show because we got it totally wrong. So I need this one to be right. This can't be wrong. So Dak and company, Mike and company, please, 34-17. Get some sacks.
Are you saying if we lose, you'll attempt the Nathan Hot Dogs challenge here live?
What's the Nathan? Yo, is that the 9 for 9 and 9 innings? We're doing it? 9 dogs? Yo, listen, dude, if they lose this game, it's panic time. You can't lose this game. And I understand it's a division. Listen, they lost to the Giants, or they lost to the Redskins, the Commanders. They gave up 7 field goals, okay? They're not a good team. The Commanders, like outside of last week, they couldn't move the ball. They couldn't do anything. They definitely couldn't play that. So that shows me how bad. Neighbors may be a problem, but I do think the Cowboys win. I think it's a very comfortable win. The Giants shouldn't win this game. I'm going to go. So we'll go first over and under. This one just popped in my head just now. This is the one we talked about. Micah Parsons, 1.5 sacks. What are we going?
I'm confidently going over the 1.5 sacks for this game. Yeah, he does well at MetLife.
I agree. I'm right there with you. Okay. Next one I have, like we said earlier, 73 rushing yards a game. We'll set the over under. We'll go 102. Total. No individual, just total for the game. The Cowboys 102.
I'm going to go under.
Oh, that's tough. I'd like to see an over one of these days. I think you're right, though. It's probably going to be under. Dak's probably going to throw for like 375, hopefully. So what? And we forgot. I didn't put it in there. Madden prediction. Both of us, right? Madden had it wrong last week, so all of us got it wrong. We're 1-2 on the season. Or no, we're 2-1. We
Yes.
are, because we got last week right, which is terrible. But what does Madden have the final score to this game being?
So Madden has Cowboys winning 49-21.
Oh my gosh. Yo, give me some Brandon. Listen, just keep kicking field goals. Brandon Aubrey. This dude could win me. This dude won me a championship last year because he threw 60-yarders. If he can win me a championship this year, listen, this guy's going to go in the Hall of Fame in the Riverside Fantasy Football League. I'll tell you that. He's going to be the first Hall of Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer if he wins back to back. From the, we have any over-unders from the Sims?
Dak, 5 TDs.
Oh, I'm gonna go under. 5, that's a good game. 5. It's a tough. I don't even can't remember. I think how many even have 5. It's a tough number. We're going under.
And 293 passing yards.
I'm gonna see over. He right now he leads. He actually always. I was shocked, but that makes sense because the end of the games he leads the NFL right now in passing. I think he has a little over 800 yards. So I'm gonna go over. I think it's a big week. They just don't. Yeah, it's 851. He's averaging 283 on the season. I'm gonna go over. I think he has a big game. You know, I think they feed CD early. I think CD. I'm gonna go. Let's go. CD Lamb. 9 catches. Over under.
Over.
You call okay. I agree. CD Lamb. $135. Listen, if you're going over 9 catches, you better be over $135.
Yeah,
because he's breaking 1 or 2 with that many.
Yeah,
they have to at some point, and this is the game. If you're Dallas, you have to figure it out. You have an opponent that you've done very well against. Dak has done very well against in his career. Like last year, this is at some point they need to, and they're throwing a lot to CD now, so it's not like it was last year. But this is the game to get things right. If you're going to figure it out, if you're going to turn your season around, week 2 it's almost never a must-win game. But if you're the Cowboys, you can't go down 1-3 because, like you said, it only gets tougher. You get the Steelers for 3-0 this year. You get the Lions. Yes, the Niners are 1-2, but they're still a very good team. Falcons are better, and you get the Eagles and the Texans after that. So it's a dog-eat-dog schedule after this week. So they listen, and I don't want it to be a fluff win. They need to put something together this week. You can't be a close game. If you're Dak and that offense, you got to put something together because it's coming up. It gets tough. It gets brutal. So, yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and what worries me, and back to thinking about the short week, is you don't have a lot of time to plan around switching up your scheme a little bit. So it makes me feel nervous that the Giants can expect to see a lot of what we've done in the past 3 weeks.
I read a stat, and I don't know if it was true because it doesn't sound true. But they said this is the first time that Dallas has ever played on 3 days rest. And every other team in the NFL has like 3+ games of that. So, but it sounds, because to me, that means they never played on Sunday and then Thursday.
Well, for a road game, I believe that's.
Oh, yes, that's what it was. Yes, a 3-day away game. That you're right. There we go. That was the factor. Which is it isn't to the Giants' advantage. They get it's both are 3 days. They get their home field there. They get to sleep in their beds, a little more comfortable. Dallas, you're not getting as much practice time. You got to travel. You hope not. The weather conditions up here tomorrow aren't going to be fantastic. It's going to be cold. Let me see what we have for weather-wise going into the game. But you have to come out big. You have to go out big. Tomorrow, it's isolated thunderstorms tomorrow. So, maybe not anything later in the day. But if you're Dallas, you have to win this. I think it's a must-win game.
And Metlife is going to be rowdy. They're going to think they have a chance. The fans are going to.
I think there's going to be a lot of Cowboys fans there, too.
Oh, there's always a lot of Cowboys fans at MetLife. Yes. That's for sure. But they're going to be rowdy. They're going to be obnoxious. And, if there's any team that the Giants don't like to be owned by, it's the Cowboys, and it's Dak. They're tired of hearing it because the media has just been pounding Dable with this, and they're trying to turn things around, but I don't think they have the talent to do it. But if that front four, if they do some damage early, we could be in for a long night.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, with the way Dallas has played, I can't disagree. You got, they have to hopefully that pass protection really comes into play. And if you're not gonna be able to get a lot of good runs, I think maybe at some point you need to start just getting Daddle, or maybe even using Turpin in the backfield and getting him out for the quick passes, and let him move in space. But listen, we both feel a Cowboys win. Vegas thinks it's going to be a Cowboys victory. Most people, I'm sure, are picking the Cowboys outside of Giants country. So it should be an easy win. Dallas needs to show up. Dak needs to play great. You really need to see that defense step up this week. I want to thank each and everybody for checking us out today. Everyone that checked into the podcast today, whether it's on Instagram, and it's not on Instagram, it's on Twitter. We're also on YouTube, two different. We're on the Ring the Bell Network YouTube, and we're also on the Cowboys Takeover Podcast YouTube still. We really appreciate everyone for checking in. It's a big week. It's a big week, guys. And we need a big win. Dak, I hope you're listening. If you are, it's going to be very excited. I doubt you are, but we need you this week. Show us why you're the highest paid quarterback or highest paid player in NFL history. It's got to come out this week. We need a win. Cowboys need a win. We can't, after the last 2 weeks, they have to show something because the schedule's coming tough, guys. You got to win the games you're supposed to win. And this is one of those ones. So thank you, everyone, for checking this out today. We really appreciate each and every one of you. For Mr. Aaron James, I'm Jason. Love you guys. Thursday night, let's go Cowboys. Let's get to 2-2. That's what. Just next game, one game at a time. Love you all. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one.